that nothing will change. You tried before, you made dua, you started and stopped, and each time it didn't work, your heart learned to expect less. That expectation slowly turns into silence. You stop asking boldly. You stop dreaming clearly. You start surviving instead of rebuilding. This is where many people misunderstand what's happening to them. You are not being punished. You are being paused. Not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has turned away, but because something inside you still needs rebuilding. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Time does not wait for healing. Another year can pass the same way the last one did. Most people don't ruin their future through one big mistake. They lose it through delay. Through saying later again and again, until later becomes never. Shaitan does not need you to disbelieve. He only needs you to postpone. You tell yourself you'll rebuild when life becomes easier, when pain reduces, when clarity comes. But clarity rarely comes before movement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not bring you here by accident. Something inside you still wants more than survival, more than routine, more than regret. And if this feels personal, it's because it is. This moment is speaking directly to the part of you that knows you were meant for better than repetition. You are not late because of age. You are not late because of mistakes. You are not late because of how many times you fell. You only become late when you stop returning. Rebuilding does not start with perfect plans. It starts with honesty, with admitting that the last version of you is not the one you want to carry forward. So before we go any further, pause for a moment. Ask yourself one simple question without excuses or explanations. If nothing changes now, where will I be when this year ends? Because 2026 is coming and it will not slow down. The question is not whether time will move. The question is whether you will move with it. Most people don't lose their future in dramatic ways. They don't wake up one day and decide to fail. They lose it quietly, slowly, and repeatedly. They start the year with intentions. They tell themselves this year will be different. They promise change, discipline, and growth. And for a short while, it feels real. Then life happens. Responsibilities return. Distractions increase. Motivation fades. And slowly, without realizing it, they return to the same habits that already disappointed them before. This cycle is not new. Every year begins with hope. Every year ends with regret. And between those two moments, nothing truly changes. The reason is not lack of intelligence. It is not lack of ability. It is not even lack of faith. The real reason is delay. Most people keep waiting for the right time to rebuild. They wait to feel motivated. They wait for clarity. They wait for pain to reduce. And while they wait, time moves forward without them. This is how years disappear. Shaitan does not destroy people with sin alone. He destroys them with comfort and delay. He whispers, not now. He convinces you there is still time, and before you realize it, another year is gone. Many people confuse planning with progress. They think because they are thinking about change, change is happening. They talk about goals. They imagine better versions of themselves. But imagination without action becomes another form of escape. This is why repetition is so dangerous. Doing the same thing again while expecting a different result slowly breaks confidence. Each failure makes the next attempt feel heavier. Eventually, people stop trying altogether, not because they don't care, but because they are tired of being disappointed. And this is where most people get stuck. They don't move forward, and they don't fully give up. They stay in between, surviving but not rebuilding, existing but not growing. Another reason people waste years is comparison. They look at others moving ahead, careers, marriages, success, confidence, and instead of learning, they freeze. Shame replaces effort. Regret replaces responsibility. The mind starts saying, it's too late for me anyway. And once that belief settles, action feels pointless. But here is the truth most people avoid. 2026 will not treat you differently just because you hope it will. Time does not respond to intentions. It responds to decisions. If you enter the year the same way you entered the last one, you will exit it the same way too. Different dates, same disappointment. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you. Because the pattern you don't interrupt becomes the life you repeat. And if this feels uncomfortable, that discomfort matters. It means part of you knows this message is real. It means you recognize yourself somewhere in these words. You are not broken, but you are standing at a dangerous point. Another year can be wasted quietly, or it can be the year you finally stop delaying your own rebuilding. The difference will not come from motivation. It will come from one decision you stop postponing. Many people blame themselves for not changing. They call themselves lazy, weak, undisciplined. But most of the time, that label is wrong. You are not lazy. You are tired in ways you never talk about. You've been trying for a long time. You've made effort that nobody saw. You've carried disappointment quietly without letting it show. And over time, that weight builds up. When effort does not bring results, something inside you begins to shut down. Not because you don't care, but because your heart is trying to protect itself from more pain. This is what emotional exhaustion looks like. You still wake up. You still function. You still smile when needed. But inside, the drive is weaker. The hope feels fragile. The excitement is gone. And when people look at you from the outside, they assume you are not trying. They don't see the dua you whispered at night. They don't see the plans you started and abandoned because failure hurt too much. They don't see how many times you told yourself, I'll try again, only to feel empty. This exhaustion creates a dangerous misunderstanding. You begin to believe that something is wrong with you. That maybe you are incapable of consistency. That maybe discipline is for others, not you. But that belief is not truth. It is fatigue speaking. Spiritual exhaustion works the same way. You still believe. You still know what is right. But the connection feels distant. Worship feels heavy. Motivation feels forced. And slowly, without noticing, you start lowering expectations. You stop asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala boldly. You stop dreaming clearly. You stop believing change is realistic. This is where many people become stuck. They are not rebellious. They are not careless. They are worn down. And Shaitan understands this very well. He doesn't push you toward obvious sin. He pushes you toward numbness, toward delay, toward accepting a smaller version of yourself. He tells you to rest, but never to return. He tells you to pause, but never to restart. And over time, exhaustion turns into identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who never follows through, someone who always starts and stops, someone who wants change but never sustains it. That identity is heavy, and carrying it into a new year almost guarantees repetition. But here is the truth you need to hear clearly. Exhaustion is not the end of your story. It is a signal. It means you've been relying on the wrong fuel. Willpower alone cannot carry long journeys. Motivation fades. Emotion fluctuates. What you need is not more pressure. You need direction. You need a reason strong enough to rebuild from inside, not force yourself from the outside. If this section feels close to home, pause for a moment. Notice how much you've been carrying quietly. Not to feel sorry for yourself, but to recognize why things felt heavy. Because rebuilding does not begin by pushing harder. It begins by understanding why you became tired in the first place. And until that is clear, every new year will feel the same. One of the hardest things to accept is delay, especially when you have already waited, especially when you feel you have suffered enough. You ask yourself why nothing is opening. You wonder why effort keeps meeting silence. And slowly, a dangerous question appears in your heart. Why is Allah not helping me? Most people never say it out loud, but they feel it. And that feeling creates distance, not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moves away, but because confusion clouds the heart. Delay is misunderstood. People think delay means rejection. They assume silence means abandonment. But in reality, delay often means protection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees paths you cannot see. He sees futures you are not ready for. He sees outcomes that would break you, even if they look attractive right now. Many people beg for doors that would have destroyed their faith, their peace, or their character. And Allah closes those doors not to punish, but to preserve. But when pain lasts too long, patience weakens. You start questioning timing. You start comparing your journey to others. You start thinking that maybe Allah is favoring them more than you. That thought is dangerous because Allah does not measure worth by speed. He measures readiness. Some people are delayed because their hearts still need reshaping. Some are delayed because pride must soften. Some are delayed because the next phase of their life requires a strength they don't have yet. Rebuilding cannot happen on a fragile foundation. If Allah gave you everything you wanted while your heart was still unstable, you would lose yourself inside it. So He slows you down. He strips illusions. He removes distractions, not to break you, to rebuild you properly. This is why delay feels uncomfortable. It forces you to sit with yourself. It exposes weaknesses you avoided. It removes the noise that kept you distracted from what actually needs attention. And most people hate this stage. They want movement without correction, progress without reflection, success without transformation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not work that way. He does not upgrade circumstances before stabilizing the soul. He does not hand over responsibility before shaping character. He does not rebuild life until the heart is ready to carry it. That readiness is not visible from the outside. People may think you are stuck, falling behind, losing time. But inside, something deeper is happening. Your priorities are being challenged. Your dependence is being tested. Your trust is being refined. And this is the part most people miss. Delay is not empty time. It is preparation time. The problem is not that Allah is delaying you. The problem is that you are trying to escape the lesson inside the delay. Once the lesson is learned, movement begins. If this section feels heavy, let it be. That weight is not meant to crush you. It is meant to slow you down long enough to understand what Allah is actually doing with your life. Because rebuilding does not begin when doors open. It begins when the heart becomes ready to walk through them. And until that happens, delay will continue to repeat itself. There is one lie that quietly destroys more lives than failure ever could. It does not shout. It does not scare you immediately. It speaks calmly, almost kindly. It's too late for you. This thought does not arrive suddenly. It grows slowly. It forms after repeated disappointment, after missed chances, after watching others move ahead while you remain where you are. At first, it sounds logical. You tell yourself you've already wasted too much time. You think about your age. You replay your mistakes. You remember the moments when you should have acted but didn't. And slowly, that thought becomes a belief. Once it settles, effort feels pointless. Hope feels embarrassing. Trying again feels foolish. You stop because you think the outcome is already decided. This is not humility. This is surrendering to despair. And Shaitan loves this stage. He doesn't need you to give up faith. He only needs you to give up belief in change. Because once you believe it's too late, you stop returning. You stop correcting. You stop rebuilding. This lie disguises itself as realism. People call it being honest with myself. They say they are just accepting reality. But reality is not that they are late. Reality is that they are afraid of trying again. Fear wears many masks. Sometimes it looks like overthinking. Sometimes it looks like procrastination. And sometimes it looks like pretending you don't care anymore. But the heart still cares. That's why this lie hurts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never described people as too late. He described them as turning away or returning. The door remains open as long as breath remains. Yet the mind keeps whispering comparisons. You should be further by now. Others your age are ahead. You missed your window. These thoughts poison effort before it even begins. The truth is uncomfortable. The only thing that truly makes you late is believing you are finished. Because once you accept that belief, nothing changes. Days pass, years pass, and regret quietly deepens. This lie does not protect you from pain. It guarantees it. And here is what most people don't realize. Every time you delay rebuilding because you think it's too late, you are actively choosing repetition. You are deciding to stay exactly where you are. That decision has consequences. Not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is harsh, but because life responds to movement. Stillness keeps everything the same. If this section feels direct, it is meant to be. Not to shame you, but to interrupt a thought that has kept you trapped longer than any external obstacle. Because once this lie is exposed, it loses power. You were never late. You were only paused by fear. And fear does not get to decide the rest of your life. Most people think rebuilding begins with discipline. New habits, new routines, new plans. They believe once they fix their actions, everything else will follow. That belief is incomplete. Real rebuilding does not begin with movement. It begins with return, with turning back honestly, not performing outward change. Many people try to rebuild while still carrying distance inside. They change behavior, but the heart remains disconnected. And when the heart is distant, actions collapse under pressure. This is why change rarely lasts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask you to arrive complete. He asks you to return sincere. Broken effort reaches Him faster than polished performance. Rebuilding begins when pride softens. When you stop pretending, you are fine. When you admit you are tired. When you accept that your way did not work the way you hoped it would. This moment is uncomfortable. It feels vulnerable. It feels exposing. It feels like failure. But in reality, it is the most powerful position a believer can stand in, because return removes resistance. When a person returns sincerely, excuses fall away. Comparison fades. The need to prove disappears, and clarity begins to form. This is why dua changes at this stage. It becomes honest, less scripted, less demanding, more real. You stop negotiating outcomes and start asking for guidance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to this return, not always by immediately changing circumstances, but by changing the heart that carries them. And when the heart changes, action becomes lighter. Many people skip this step. They want discipline without humility. They want results without surrender. They want rebuilding without reflection. That never lasts. Rebuilding without return becomes self-improvement. Rebuilding with return becomes transformation. This is where spiritual weight shifts. You stop trying to impress anyone. You stop measuring yourself against others. You focus on alignment, not appearance. And from this place, action finally makes sense. Because now effort is no longer driven by fear. It is driven by direction. And direction survives when motivation fades. If this feels like a pause rather than progress, allow it. This pause is not delay, it is recalibration. Return does not make you weak. It makes you honest. And honesty is where rebuilding becomes real. Rebuilding does not succeed through motivation. Motivation rises and falls. It disappears the moment life becomes heavy again. What carries rebuilding forward is decision. In 2026, you cannot afford to rely on feelings alone. Feelings change daily. Discipline begins where emotion ends. Most people fail because they keep waiting to feel ready. They wait for confidence. They wait for clarity. They wait for energy. Readiness rarely comes first. Action creates readiness. This year must be different in one critical way. You must stop trying to change everything at once. Large plans feel impressive, but they collapse quickly. Small decisions survive pressure. One habit done consistently reshapes identity more than 10 habits done briefly. Rebuilding requires focus. Choose one area you have been avoiding. One responsibility you keep postponing. One behavior you know weakens you. And commit to correcting it, even imperfectly. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not require perfection. He requires sincerity and consistency. Progress that continues is more beloved than intensity that fades. Another change must happen in how you handle failure. Failure is not proof that rebuilding isn't working. It is proof that you are attempting something new. The mistake is not falling. The mistake is quitting at the first setback. In 2026, setbacks will happen. Discomfort will appear. Old habits will try to return. What matters is response. Do you retreat into shame, or do you return and continue? This decision determines outcomes. You must also guard your environment. Growth does not survive in environments that constantly pull you backward. If certain habits, people, or routines weaken you, distance is not arrogance. It is protection. Rebuilding requires boundaries, not to isolate yourself, but to preserve direction. Another important shift is how you measure success. Stop measuring yourself by speed. Measure yourself by consistency. Stop asking how fast you are changing. Ask how honestly you are showing up. Slow progress with clarity is safer than fast movement with confusion. If this sounds demanding, it is meant to be. Rebuilding is not comfort-based. It is responsibility-based. And here is the part many people miss. You do not need to feel strong to act. Strength grows after action, not before it. If you wait to feel confident, you will remain stuck. If you move while uncertain, clarity will follow. This year does not need dramatic transformation. It needs steady correction. And steady correction, done daily, quietly rebuilds lives. There is a moment in every person's life where delay becomes a decision. Not because they chose it consciously, but because they stopped interrupting it. That moment is closer than most people realize. Right now, you are standing at one of those points. Another year is approaching. Another cycle is ready to begin. And life will move forward, whether you are prepared or not. This is not pressure for the sake of fear. This is clarity. If you do nothing different will happen. Time does not adjust itself to intentions. It responds only to action. Many people hope things will improve naturally, that circumstances will soften, that motivation will return, that life will somehow become easier first. That rarely happens. Change usually begins when comfort ends. This is why this moment matters. You can choose familiarity, the same routines, the same excuses, the same promises postponed. That path feels safe because it is known, but it carries a quiet cost. Another year of thinking instead of doing. Another year of awareness without action. Another year of regret layered on top of regret. Or you can choose responsibility, not perfection, not intensity, responsibility. Responsibility to return when you fall. Responsibility to act even when unsure. Responsibility to stop lying to yourself about later. This choice is uncomfortable. Growth always is, but discomfort now prevents deeper pain later. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not demand instant transformation. He asks for honesty and movement. One sincere step taken consistently outweighs years of passive intention. The danger is not failing. The danger is delaying until courage fades. If this section feels heavy, pause. That weight is not meant to crush you. It is meant to anchor this moment in your memory, because moments like this pass quickly. A reminder heard but not acted upon becomes another missed opportunity, and missed opportunities quietly shape futures. You still have time, but time must be respected. Rebuilding will not feel dramatic at first. It will feel ordinary, repetitive, quiet. But those quiet choices compound. One decision made today changes the direction of many tomorrows. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to impress anyone. You only need to choose differently than you did before. This is not about becoming someone new overnight. It is about refusing to remain someone you already outgrew. The year ahead will move forward regardless. The question is simple. Will you enter it repeating the same patterns? Or will you step into it carrying responsibility instead of regret? The answer is not spoken. It is lived. Rebuilding does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly, through choices that rarely feel exciting at first. Most people miss this because they expect change to feel powerful immediately. It usually doesn't. Real rebuilding feels slow. It feels ordinary. Sometimes it even feels uncomfortable. But that discomfort is often a sign that you are no longer running from yourself. You were never meant to rush your growth. You were meant to commit to it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not rush His servants. He guides them steadily, step by step, if they are willing to walk. What matters is not how fast you change, but whether you keep returning when you fall. This is where many people misunderstand rebuilding. They think consistency means never slipping. In reality, consistency means returning without quitting. It means standing back up without turning mistakes into excuses. You may still struggle. You may still feel uncertain. You may still have days where motivation disappears. None of that disqualifies you. What disqualifies you is choosing to remain